incredible overnight when all, again, I don't know who's who in here. 1 Thessalonians 4:16, the Apostle Paul said, "For the dead in Christ shall rise first, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught together with them in the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord." And I like that trump, the trump of God. They said Cyrus's name was in the Bible in Isaiah, the man that sent the Jews home. Isaiah put his name in the Bible 175 years before he was born. I tell folks Trump's name's in the Bible 3,000 years before he was born. And it's the modern versions. If you don't have a King James Bible at home, go look at the two references to Trump. They're always to do with the rapture. But all the modern versions say trumpet. The King James version has it read Trump. So that's the next event. We're going out of here. And then after that, it's a strange thing about Russia. Putin, you'll never believe this, but he has a very fond place in his heart for Jews. This is absolutely true. I've researched this. When he grew up poverty-stricken. And I'm not saying he's a great guy. I was in Russia one time, and me and a professor at the University of Moscow got held up for an hour in a traffic jam, and he's just like in America. Putin's going by with his Russian mafia guards and all that. But Putin grew up in a poverty-stricken part of Russia, Moscow somewhere. But his next-door neighbor was a Hasidic Jew, and used to take Putin into his home to feed him and his family, and grew up with him. Matter of fact, when Putin went into high school, he joined the wrestling team because that neighbor was the wrestling coach. And he was his mentor all through his life. And when that wrestling coach died, Putin wept at the funeral profusely. And they couldn't believe a KGB guy could weep so much. That's how much he loved that guy. When Putin went to Israel on his first trip, he looked up one of his old school teachers, who was a Jewish woman from Moscow, found her living in a terribly poor neighborhood in Israel. He took his own money and bought her one of the swankiest apartments in Tel Aviv. Weird stories. In Jerusalem to this day. In Moscow, there's the Jewish Museum of Russia, and Putin's name is over the door. He was a big donor to it. When Netanyahu came to America, when ISIS was filling in the void up there in Syria and Lebanon, the officials that Netanyahu's delegation met to stop ISIS coming in there, they got a cold shoulder. 2 days later, Netanyahu jumped on a plane and went straight to Moscow and had a sit down with Netanyahu. Netanyahu gave him a pass to bomb the snot out of all those Iranian bases in Syria that he wanted to, and he'd be okay with them. So he's got a strange, warm feeling toward Jews. He's nationalist more than anything else. Don't you remember he wouldn't let any sodomite Olympic players in the Olympics, and Obama's pushing all the sodomite agenda, and Netanyahu's, Putin saying, we don't want any of those homosexuals on our Olympic games, and he's holding up the moral standard that Obama wouldn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So he's for Russia more than anything else.
I can confirm that. I went to the AWA. It's the Israel-American Pact.
Yeah, the APAC.
And the Jewish man that spoke that night told that very story.
Yeah, it's strange. It's
strange.
And
they say there was some bomb or something that Syria was wanting that Putin did not let them have to protect Israel.
Well, you have 3 kings out of the 10 kings that are going to have to be in Revelation, that are going to have to be subdued by the Antichrist. 3 kings aren't going to go along with the Antichrist. And some folks have theorized that might be Britain, United States, and Russia. Britain just pulled out of the EU. You see the trend Trump is setting now for America first, and Putin is super, super, super pro-nationalist Russia. And those could be the 3 countries. And the weirdest thing about Russia invading Israel is Israel makes a pact with the Antichrist. And it could be Russia's coming down there to bust into the place because of the Antichrist. But God's going to clean Russia's clock too. When Nebuchadnezzar the Babylonians wiped out Israel, 6 times in Jeremiah, God called Nebuchadnezzar my servant. He did the bidding that God wanted done. And yet Nebuchadnezzar got his clock cleaned too. It goes back to the verse in Isaiah that says, who hath known the mind of the Lord? So we're not going to get all these things straight yet, or all the answers. I'll tell you what, as a preacher, can I say this much? Make sure that you know you're saved. Make sure you're trusting Jesus Christ and Him alone, and not how good you think you are. Can I throw that? Paul, is it okay for me to throw that? I'm just cutting up with you. I know I'm in good company. Most of you probably know what I'm talking about. Thank you for letting me have this time to speak.
Well, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for all of that you put in our basket over there. Don't forget, we have Back for America that will be coming up, not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday.
It won't be this Thursday.
It will be this Thursday, okay. Yeah, the 23rd. Rosary just can't.
Dr. Grady will be there too.
Yeah, and guess who the guest speaker is? Dr. Grady. So he's got a second act to this if you want to visit for that. So I want to thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the program. We haven't got a guest speaker for our next one. We've been trying to get either Marcia Blackburn or Bill Lee to come, and we left that open. Right now we don't have either one of them, so we'll get a speaker for next meeting, and we'll put it out when we do get the next speaker. So thank you again for coming. We'll see you next month.
Bill, I really appreciate it. I'm not taking it for granted that you're
What's the name of that?
There's some states that like Tennessee does it. Mumble a prayer, you know what I mean? And the Muslim monitor was down on one knee.
What do you think about
Of course, they should go away. There's a friend of mine named Moshe Saperstein. He grew up in Brooklyn now. He moved to Israel, blew his arm off in the Cold War. This is me and his sewer pipe. He was in Gush Katif. His wife was the main representative of CNN for Gaza residents. You know, when they took 8,000 of them, Sarah moved just slightly north of the Gaza. We're still within striking distance of, rockets. So the government provides those settlers with sewer pipes. And the Jews hate them. He wanted me to close inside his kickers. They call them sewer villages. As a mockery, So, but that was coming off of the, so as soon as they give Gaza, when they turned Gaza over to the Muslims, there were 32 greenhouses. 32 greenhouses. Now, in Gaza, the Jews, had 32.
Did you know that before she said?
They left those greenhouses for the Muslims as a sign of goodwill. The Muslims destroyed all of them except one, and turned the one greenhouse into a terrorist museum. And they're so stupid that they destroyed 32 greenhouses that they could have used for So that's the political correctness they get. And now they want to give them the West Bank. You all know the right and wrongs of this stuff.
Do you remember that movie, History?
Yeah, we're very close. We have it.
Last year. Yes.
While you're signing, thank you so much.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
You have such a wonderful memory.
You say the same thing every day. It's not hard to remember. There's something really interesting. Remember the sneak attack on Pearl Harbor? The largest newspaper in Hawaii. November the 30th.
I just saw it the other day, walking out the cameras. Next thing you get it.
That's what surprised was. You read those 3 words right there? Hawaii. That's You know, here is a photocopy of the document that was unearthed. This came out in a book called Pearl Harbor Data at the Sea. Here is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-step plan put out by a Lieutenant McCollum. This was given to Roosevelt to incite the Japanese to attack. The whole plan was you follow these steps. Embargo, flying Tiger, command strength of the U.S. That was getting into the back door. So they wanted to put white Germans, but they couldn't do it. So they wanted to attack us. We attacked the Third War. They don't have to say and then Germany was declared war on America. And they were out. And we turned around. And that's a true story. That stuff comes out after the fact. Comes out after the fact. You can't make this stuff up. But this is a very nice building to be working on. You don't see people come out of here.
She's already going to
Well, you know, Facebook is almost we wouldn't take the millennials as far as that draws. And that's not going to change. There's no Bible verse that says that.
Well, that's what I was telling you, right?
With all long suffering, he's the prime so you don't hear about this plan in the game.
He has gone.
But after
I better read the last dozen years.
Second Thessalonians chapter 2 says the day of the Lord shall not come.
Okay, that's like citation.
Jesus said, when the Son of Man returns, shall he find anybody? Jesus in Matthew 24, as it was in the days of
I sound like I'm
people that don't want to go over that. But don't get frustrated when you see the job. That's why you got Jesus and occupied all the time. That's why two of those famous songs in the hymn. Hold the fort. The other one, keep on the fire. These are radical hymns for and Joel's can people that preach so you have to be willing to put up with this. But you don't want to get depressed. In other words, we would have the same need to understand as church people are trying to reach their scary. It's not going to do it. That's the way it is. Most things, but you don't get this. You don't set yourself up with the emotions. You're going to bring the whole book from it. Good. You do that, you do that. Think about this. I know he was in the last days. John Grady works.
Reagan too, yeah.
When you have things, when you're the church is like a ship. The church in the world moves like a ship on the ocean. And it's above the water, so people on the water starts to get a ship. The ship's in trouble. And someone said when the church affects the world, I don't think you have any world affects the church. This is what's I just went to the lobby and I was in Vegas 3 days ago. They have a giant picture of the sun. I'll bring some of the lobby and see that. Smeared off. This song, when they heard that word, like the mayor shot the first time they played a song about Chicago.
Take care.
They played that.
Unless y'all have a good night.
One of the songs in Chicago.
Love that hat.
The only town in the world that was such a big shut down. The liquor.
What's that now?
You know, alcohol, it's just,
It's loud.
but all the other parts of the
I still work in Blount County.
they didn't pick it to close it down. The bartenders got some
Green back there,
customers.
right on
They
95.
had more customers. That's when revival was going on. Like you get into those days, that's not there now.
Great.
That's why you're not getting a salt shell. Really the shell of the shit different. Because they try to that's the way most Christians are now. So, they're not affecting the world. And in a sense, that's even when they come to Germany.
I want to get on out here. Y'all need anything for
He told them it was really punctual.